the Mets, meet the Mets. Step right up and greet the Mets. Bring your kiddies, bring your wife. Guaranteed to have the time of your life, because the Mets are really socking the ball, knocking those home runs over the wall. East side, west side, everybody's coming down to meet the METS Mets of New York town. Oh, the butcher and the baker and the people on the streets, where do they go? To meet the Mets! Oh, they're hollering and cheering and they're jumping in their seats. Where do they go? To meet the Mets! All the fans are true to the orange and blue, so hurry up and come.
What's up, Mets fans? Welcome back to another Mets Roundtable. How is everybody doing today on this Monday, August 14th at 8 p.m.? We got the whole crew here on this Roundtable today. We got Chris, we got Nelson, we got Hayden here for all your Mets talk needs. So we're going to go around the table, say what up to everybody, and then get to the topics at night. The Mets game is going on right now at Citi Field. It's 2-1 Mets in the top of the third. So I'm going to start off the guy to my left. There we go. Chris, what's up, buddy? How you doing?
What up, y'all? Always good to be part of the roundtable, talking with my guys, Rob, Hayden, and Nelson. Appreciate you having me on. See a couple comments in here thanking us for continuing to update the people on this dreadful team. So we're still going to be here, but got the new logo up, new logo, same CP. So always good to talk Mets with you all, subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff. Closing in on 100 subscribers, so would appreciate hitting that milestone. Always good to be talking with you, Rob, and let's go Mets despite the circumstances. So
absolutely. So you know what to do. Subscribe to his channel. Hayden, what's up, buddy? How you doing?
Yeah, what's going on, everyone? Mets Talk with Hayden here. Hopefully everyone is doing well. As per usual, besides the Mets, I'm doing pretty well. I actually don't have any controversial hats on, so hopefully no one gets upset by that. I have a Stetson University hat on, so I guess if you're upset, then I don't know what to tell you. But yeah, just hit 800 subscribers. I appreciate you guys for that. And yeah, obviously excited to discuss the topics we got today. And yeah, LFGM, let's get it.
All right, so that's Hayden, guys. You know what to do. Subscribe to his channel. And, of course, Nelson, how you doing, buddy?
What's up? Not doing too bad. Happy to be here with you guys as always. Amish Country Mets fan here. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, same as the other guys, please do me that favor. That'd be great. And yeah, man, here to talk Mets baseball, even though it's been abysmal lately, but still got to talk about it. So here we are.
Yeah, absolutely. It's not the easiest time in Mets baseball right now, especially for content creators, where there's not much to talk about except a lot of negativity, and there's not much content at all, to be honest with you, because it's hard to put out content for this team that basically, for 2 months now is going to basically have games that really are not that important, unless you're wanting this team to lose a lot to get that top 6 draft pick so they don't drop down 10 spots in the draft in the first round. So, all right, guys. So we're going to get right into it. When it comes to Verlander, there was some talk or conversations and media that got more into it with Verlander, and there was more about the diva in Verlander, and Scherzer and Verlander did not really get along, even though they were teammates in Detroit. Scherzer felt like he was a diva and questioned the analytical department of the Mets. And Scherzer think he probably should have just shut up and do his job instead of complaining, and I guess complaining to staffers about it as well. So I'm just going to pull it up. I'm going to pull it up really quickly so I can read it to you guys. I know I screenshotted it somewhere. There we go. So Justin Verlander actually went on Twitter. So this wasn't something that, we got through, sent through a media or talked through an interview. He actually said this on Twitter. I want to say that I have nothing but respect for the Mets organization, and I enjoy connecting with all of my teammates this season, new and old. It truly was a wonderful group of people. That being said, of course, there's got to be something like that. We all know the success of a team is made up of more than just the players on the field. Everyone's input is valuable. I am sorry to hear that a staff member took offense to constructive criticism on how we could improve, which nothing but the Mets best to the Mets moving forward. So I'm going to start with you, Chris, when it comes to that. So Justin Verlander couldn't be nicer about the Mets organization when he first got traded to Houston. And then, obviously people got on him a little bit, and players or, anonymous players or people talked about Verlander being a diva and how Scherzer and Verlander were trying to get along while wearing the orange and blue, but it seemed like it wasn't good enough. And I don't know, what are your comments towards his criticism towards the staff member that talked about the criticism that he got from Verlander? I mean, what are your thoughts about that?
I mean, from face value, it seems like Verlander has done nothing but just be the utmost professional, especially with how he handled the trade deadline and his comments towards the Mets. I think it was opposite with Scherzer, right? Scherzer kind of started to run his mouth a little bit during his opening press conference, but we really don't know what goes on behind closed doors. Do I have any doubts that the Mets analytical department needs work? No, I don't. That's something that Steve Cohen wanted to, start from the ground up pretty much. The Wilpons hadn't really invested in anything like that. A team like the Astros, probably a team like the Rays, these other teams have already started beefing up and setting a foundation for these analytical departments. And coming over from an organization, albeit we all know the scandal that happened in Houston, but they're a successful organization nonetheless, probably due, somewhat having to do with the analytical department. So if Justin Verlander is correct in what he said, that it was just constructive criticism and someone took offense to that, then I don't blame him whatsoever. If he went, and started blabbering his mouth like Scherzer did in his opening press conference, or, when he got back to Houston after the trade deadline, then that's a whole different story. So we really don't know what went on behind closed doors. I honestly was surprised to hear that Scherzer and Verlander's relationship was never mended from Detroit. That's something that, honestly, I don't know if you all saw any reports about that, but I never saw a report about that when Verlander first signed here. So that's something interesting. And if that was hidden from the fans, then can you imagine how many more things were hidden from the fans in terms of the dealings that were happening in the clubhouse when everybody, especially from the start of the season. So I really do think that there's more to it than just Scherzer and Verlander, but it's really interesting that that is the first domino that's falling in terms of the fans and the open public knowing what's behind this failure of a season in the 2023 New York Mets. So I think Verlander, until somebody comes out with something saying Verlander really was rude and wasn't portraying himself in the manner that he is to the media, then it's a different discussion. But for right now, I don't have any problems with what Justin Verlander has said publicly.
Yeah, I agree. And you know what? In the next few months, we're going to hear a lot more leaks coming out of exactly what really went on, not just with Verlander and Scherzer, but much more. Clearly, look, we don't know what really went on behind closed doors. We really don't know. And maybe the media does know, and because of the respect of the organization, they're not saying nothing yet. But I guarantee you, once the offseason happens, you're going to hear a lot more about what really went on in the clubhouse, and probably the biggest reason why they decided to sell at the deadline. One, they didn't go on a run when they should have. And two, it was probably a lot worse than we all thought. And I think that's probably the reason for that. So, Hayden, we're going to go to you right now about what Verlander said. So constructive criticism, I think, is a way to learn. And I think Verlander was trying to realize that, it says staff member. Who is the staff member? That's what I really want to know. Is it the analytical department that were pissed off because they're a bunch of nerds that never played baseball before and don't tell those guys what to do because, I know all the numbers and that guy's a professional ball player? What do you think, Hayden?
Yeah, I mean, right now when it comes to JV, it's interesting. Listen, I think it's interesting the fact that a lot of people called him a diva. And like you just said, Rob, I kind of question who that secret person was. Obviously, to pretty much restated. Once the offseason comes, regardless if Epler's fired or not, it's probably going to be more leaked and come out what happened in this clubhouse. We know the clubhouse is definitely much different this year than it was last year, no doubt. I think, and like I said, we're going to find more about that in the offseason, but what we could observe right now is, I think it was expected that Scherzer and Verlander would have a friendly, competitive rivalry. Obviously, I know they're trying to chase each other in career strikeouts, but, I kind of expected that to be kind of a fun thing. I never really expected. I know they had some beef in Detroit. I don't know if they wanted to rehash that. I'm not really sure. But I guess really when it comes down to it, like I said, I'm not in the clubhouse, so I can't really speak off of JV. Obviously, he was not fond of the Mets analytical team, and I'll give Cohen props. Obviously, I mean 3 years ago, Mets analytical team was probably batting average and an ERA. Whether you like analytics or not, that's a story for another day. I tend to be pro analytic, and even I say this. I think definitely there's room for improvement on the Mets analytical team. Rome wasn't built in a day, is what we like to say. So I'm not really sure what the issue is. I'm not really sure who the person was that went off on Scherzer. But like I said, right now, really not much you could say in it because we just don't know the full story. We're not in the clubhouse. But you know what? I respect Verlander for coming out. And, I think, like Rob said, I think constructive criticism is okay. I think it's a way for teams to really learn. We know a lot of players have came out and said they weren't fond of certain things. J.D. Davis was one. He said that he wasn't fond of how the Mets used him. He wasn't big on a lot of the analytics that were thrown at him, and it kind of made him very confused. So I think when it comes to analytics, like I said, that's a topic for another day. I guess it varies player to player. There's some guys, I know Jeff McNeil has came out and said he wasn't crazy about the analytics, even though they had no issue with it last year. But yeah, we'll see. But when it comes to JV, I don't necessarily know if he's a diva as of right now, I would say, unless something else comes out that's big. But I respect the constructive criticism. And I mean, if Cohen and Epler will continue to improve, the analytical team and, more parts of the front office.
Yeah, and you know what? And we heard about Scherzer talking about going into the lab that Steve Cohen put inside into the facilities and stuff like that. That's only been around for a little less than a year. That lab that they talked about, and that takes time. And again, Houston, Tampa, all these teams that are so analytically driven and have all these groups and teams of analytical people. It takes time to build up all that throughout the farm system, and then getting it throughout all the minor league systems, and then in the majors as well. So that does take time for sure. It's just a matter of when and how much more criticism is the organization going to take when all Cohen can do is give the money to put those things in place and then let it work itself out. So Nelson, what do you think about the Verlander comments in general, from like what he said the first time when he first got traded and then now?
Yeah, I haven't had any problem with any of his comments that he's made. My issue or my concern is, well, I have a few concerns. One is, in the beginning of the Cohen era, we never heard little leaks coming from anywhere.
Yep.
Everything was kept pretty. We were running a pretty tight ship. Now all of a sudden, this season with the losing, has come a lot more leaks, and that's a little bit of that Wilpon era stench that I don't like. Back in the Wilpon era, I'm sure you guys remember, there were leaks from everywhere, from staffers, from front office, from players, and it was just nonstop. So whatever this leak issue is we got going on, hopefully we can put a stop to it, because I don't like that. That concerns me a little bit, and that makes the problems worse if there is a clubhouse problem, if you ask me. The other thing, I mean, with Scherzer and Verlander, there were plenty of stories in spring training about how they hated each other in Detroit. That wasn't a surprise to me. I never expected them to be best friends all of a sudden. I know they tried to talk it up a good game and they worked out together and this and that, but let's face it, Scherzer's an asshole. Verlander, I could see how he could be a little bit of a diva at times. I could certainly see that. I don't know. I could also. I mean, we've all speculated on clubhouse issues and whatnot. I could see how this could have turned into there was a Verlander camp and a Scherzer camp, and a divide was created there. You just never know. We're not in the clubhouse. I mean, I'm speculating. Obviously, that's all we can do. But it's certainly a possibility with the way both guys have acted since they've left and the comments they've made. It certainly seems like there's been something, and just the reactions that we got from some of the guys after they were traded, just something seems off. Don't know what it is. I'd love to find out. Maybe that weasel Andy Martino will come up with something here after the season's over. Well, whether you can believe him or not, who knows? At this point, all the media kind of get on my nerves, especially the hacks at WFAN.
That
So,
we'll talk about that.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm not, like I said, don't have a problem with Verlander's comments. I'm more concerned with the little clubhouse leaks that are coming from multiple people lately, and I don't want to see that. I don't want to see this turn into the Wilpon Mets all over again.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at with the whole situation.
Yeah, I agree. And you know what? I honestly think Cohen is waiting in the wings and seeing who leaks these things and who opens their mouth too much, and it probably be consequences in the offseason, in my opinion. I just think, we for the first couple of years of Steve Cohen, you did not hear nothing coming out, like you said, Nelson, from the clubhouse, from anybody, even media. Like, they had no idea what was going on with the Mets internally. They didn't even know about trades happening or free agent signings happening. So it is a little weird that it's happening now. But yeah, Scherzer is an asshole. Scherzer opens his mouth every single time. But it is very funny. As soon as they get traded, these two guys, they both had no problem opening their mouth. No matter if it was good or bad, they couldn't wait to talk about it to the media. And, who knows what really happened? We're not there, and it is speculation. But it's concerning to the point where now a guy like Stearns, who looks like he's going to come in, is going to have to figure out what he's got to do with this situation. And, it's going to be his decision, clearly, if he comes in. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not mad about the Verlander comments at all. I mean, yeah, he probably is a diva, but if you got, Kate Hudson by your side, I mean, who wouldn't be a diva? I mean, seriously, we would all be a diva in that aspect of it. So, yeah, I could see him being that, pretty boy, I'm better than everybody else. My girl's hot, your girl's not situation. I mean, come on, seriously. I mean, why not? I mean, but yeah, I mean, if that bothers professional baseball players, then, find another career. That's the way I see it. I mean, I don't see how not liking somebody is a big deal. We heard many years. I know this is going back that a lot of teams that really didn't like each other, and they found ways to work work better on the field and just play their game. I mean, it's an individual driven game that is team oriented. That's basically what it is. So if they couldn't do their jobs individually, then they're more mental cases than we actually thought. And maybe a sports psychologist or a sports therapist would actually help this team a lot better. Or a lot of these players that were talked about, Nelson, on WFAN, which is, I listen to them a lot. I'm not going to lie. I'm at work a lot of the time and I'm listening to them. Greg Giannotti of WFAN in the morning with Boomer, he actually said that he believes that Cohen has no idea what he's doing and he's just owning the team and just letting everything go haywire. If Cohen didn't know what he was doing, he would have never made these moves at the deadline, which is clearly unprecedented, and no other owner would have done this. A lot of owners would either stayed pat, or if they did sell, not put that money in to get those type of prospects, or buy stupidly and not go on a run and then have the same team next year, and then we really got more problems. So I'm not saying he knows everything about owning the baseball team, but every owner that owns a team for the first time clearly is going to go through growing pains. He's going to do what he believes. And again, when you don't have a president of baseball operations, when you don't have people guiding you, you have to do it on your own. And again, would you rather have Cohen do what he needs to do, or would you want Billy Epler to run the show? Right? It's kind of that situation where I think Cohen is just trying to do it on the fly right now without anybody actually guiding him. And maybe David Stearns could be that guy. So we're gonna go to the Braves and Mets recap. Not really much to talk about since it was a complete disaster. Because my God, I mean, the doubleheader was just a joke. Luckily, I didn't have to sit there a lot to see those games. But hey, listen, it's the Braves who obviously there was comments coming out of the Braves clubhouse. Ozzy Albies and a couple other guys, they love beating the Mets. They said it. They said it to the media, which I'm a little shocked about. They said it. Internally, obviously you could talk about it, and they love beating on the Mets. But now that they said it and it's out there and it's bulletin board material now, it's really frustrating because a team like the Mets, no matter if you got Rafael Ortega, DJ Stewart, there's got to be a pride factor where let's not make this team beat us up on our own ballpark, or at least try to. Like they show no effort. Chris, I'm going to start with you. I mean, I don't know. I mean, to hear those comments is just even more frustrating to an already disappointed season. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, the Braves did the same thing last season. Acuna talked about, despite the Mets being up in the division, how they were still better than the Mets. You saw, heard Spencer Strider's comments last season. The Braves take this rivalry like personally, and I don't think the Mets do. I don't know. I don't know what it is. I don't know if they're just lacking that fire, but the Braves are a unit. You can tell that they have camaraderie. As much as I hate listening to Sunday night ESPN baseball, they're talking about how the new infielder Nicky Lopez was working with Ron Washington, and then Austin Riley is supposed to be Austin Riley's time, but Ron Washington wanted to spend a couple more minutes with Nicky Lopez, and obviously Austin Riley's a star on that team. He said no problem, went back into the dugout and just waited his turn. And there's really doesn't seem to be any sort of drama or reports of drama that come out of Atlanta. So it's just interesting how that happens with the Mets. And I don't know, man. I just sometimes see a lack of fire, lack of passion. There is something to be said about, as Hayden and, we were all talking about earlier, we have Jonathan Arauz, we have DJ Stewart, we have, Rafael Ortega. I mean, I don't expect those guys to win ball games against the Atlanta Braves, especially this season. Just shouldn't be an expectation. But to your counterpoint, Rob, have some professional pride. Literally, Buck Showalter said these guys have professional pride. He said that. We didn't see in that Braves series. There's no professional pride there.
No.
And then the biggest thing that irks me is the fact that Buck Showalter was sit there, and I get it. It's not his fault. He's not playing the game of baseball. But for crying out loud, stop telling us, the fans, and whoever else, the national public, that these guys are trying. Because that doesn't cut it. If you're a professional baseball player, we know you're trying. At least you should be. But stop coddling these dudes. And I don't know what internal conversations Buck Showalter has, but it's just a bad look.
Yeah.
It's a bad look. I agree, man. That was an ugly series. It was torturous for me to watch. We somehow won the last game, even when I thought they were still going to blow it. We snuck one out, but yeah, I just think that in terms of this rivalry that the Mets and Braves have, you see in the post-game comments, you see it in the way they play each other, you see the fire and the differences in fire and passion between the two teams. The Braves are 3 steps ahead. And they pulled it together last season when the division got out of hand, and they brought it back. They ended up winning it. The Mets couldn't do so this year. I wasn't expecting them to do it this year, but I just didn't think they had what it took. Not only probably, I thought they had what it took talent-wise to close that gap, but the camaraderie definitely wasn't there. And that's something that we can sign any free agent in the books we want to for 2024, but until this team internally gets their camaraderie together, until there's more leadership, we talk about leadership, the word leadership all the time, until there's more of that going on in the clubhouse, no matter how much talent this team brings in, you're not going to overthrow the Braves in that division doing what you do now. So there needs to be more unity going forward into next season. And I really don't ever want to watch a series like that ever again against a national East, National League East rival. That was absolutely embarrassing. And there's like, you see these comments from Braves fans on Twitter, like that is my number one most hated fan base. I don't even care about Yankee fans. Like the Braves fans are the worst, and they've overtaken Philly in my opinion,
I
bar none.
agree.
But you can't say anything to them on Twitter as a Mets fan in 2023, and that's what irks me because it was all good and fun last year on Twitter, but this year is just like you have no talking points against them because this team just reeks. So I don't know, man. I just want to see some more competitiveness. I'm not watching for wins and losses anymore. I'm watching for individual guys.
Yeah.
Mark Vientos is one that I've been mentioning 24/7. I know he's been stinking it up. He hasn't really been playing well, but he's showcasing himself, and these guys, mostly these fringe guys, are showcasing themselves. Even Jeff McNeil really is showcasing himself because he could be on the trade block, to be honest with you. And I know Hayden's smirking over there because McNeil had a good game yesterday, and I think he just did something today. I don't have the game up right now while we're talking, but he's one of those guys that the Mets could him and Marte. I don't know if Marte is going to be back, but these could be guys with the plethora and the depth that we have in the minor leagues that if they showcase themselves down the line here. I know everybody wants Jeff McNeil as a part of this organization, but if they were shopping Pete Alonso and they put an offer out for Pete Alonso, what's your highest offer, at the trade deadline? Who's to say they won't do so for McNeil if he turns it around in this next month and a half of the regular season? So, yeah, man, I agree with you. This is a really bad series, something I never want to witness again. But I'm not even watching for wins and losses at this point. But unity, camaraderie, leadership. 3 words we need going into 2024 that this 2023 Mets team had 0 of. So,
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we were talking in the group chat about, Hayden brought up McNeil and how he's been performing better. Well, great. The pressure's not on anymore. So it's a lot easier to get those hits and do better when there's no pressure on you. And now he's playing good. I mean, it's nice to see individual. Let's see if they can play better going into the next month and a half and take it into next year. Since confidence seems to be everything with these guys. But yeah, I don't know. The series was terrible, and you know what? The Ryan Ortegas, the DJ Stewarts, the Arauz guys, those guys are like you said, showcasing themselves because Arauz might actually take Guillorme's spot on the bench as a defensive guy next year. These are guys that could actually be on the bench next year, could be the first call-ups next year, depending on depth pieces. And that's why, people are like, why are we seeing those guys? Well, the Mets need to see because you need depth. And that's why you want to see these guys as well. I know you want to see Ronnie Mauricio and Brett Beatty back up, but I can care less what they do in AAA because all of a sudden Brett Beatty goes down. All of a sudden he realizes he can play baseball again because he's playing against guys that are probably never going to make the major leagues. So, until he does it in the big leagues, I don't really care what his numbers are in AAA in particular. So, Hayden, yeah, Braves, Mets. I know the group chat was very interesting during that doubleheader. But tell everybody your thoughts.
Yeah. Well, I went into Orlando to try and avoid that, and I go into a restaurant. Of course, they're playing that hideous game, so I was kind of forced to watch it for about an hour. But yeah, I mean, it was a disaster. Not to sound like Frank, but it was lifeless, ballless, feeble. It was horrible. If you went to those doubleheader games, I think Cohen should give you your money back. I mean, you lose 21-3. I know football's on, but that's sad. And I know 4 or 5 of those runs were from a position player, but it's sad. This team didn't look like they played with any fire. They didn't look like they had any urgency, that they cared. And I agree. I agree with what Chris said. This is a rivalry, and I think rivalries are good for baseball. I'm happy. I think rivalries are great. What are Mets fans going to say to Braves fans this year? What, we won 2 games from y'all this year, and y'all won 6? We have nothing. I mean, there's literally nothing to go against the Braves. At least the Phillies, yeah, sure, maybe, whatever, but there's nothing to say against Braves fans this year. They're the more dominant team, and I will admit it. They are arguably, I think this is the team that's probably going to win a World Series. whether you like it or not. You can be jealous or not, but how can this team not win a World Series? Look at them all around. Their 8-9 hitters are pretty much our 1, 2, and 3 hitters. So yeah, the Braves play with fight. They play with power. And the Mets just don't really care, I feel. And you thought that they would want to go after the Braves a lot, even earlier this season, back in, I think, was it May, when they had that disaster at Citi Field. They swept us pretty much out of the division spot, and they didn't really care. And like you see Ozzy Albies, and you see they asked Matt Olson. I hear Barstool was speaking with Matt Olson, and they're like, so what do you think of guys like Frank the Tank? Do the Braves know about him? And they're like, yeah, well, that's motivation right there. So literally, Met fans are motivating the Braves to play well, and the Mets are just sitting here and, Buck Showalter's proud of the Mets, proud. So I think it's a disaster. I think it's embarrassing, and I get it. It's a division rival, and I get it. You lost, but it's the way you lost and who you lost to.
Correct.
If the Mets lost like 3-1, okay. But when you're losing like by a football score and Lowell Mets is going all over, that's embarrassing. And I get it. It's hard to win a lineup with Jonathan Aruz and Rafael Ortega and guys that, probably wouldn't hit 200 in AAA, but show some effort, show some life. I mean, they show the dugout. I don't know if you guys paid attention, but it looked pretty darn boring in there. I think this probably is more lively than the dugout. So, I congratulate the Braves. I give them tip of the cap. I give teams respect when they deserve it. That's why I give respect to the Braves. I give respect to the Phillies. Those are good teams. And Mets fans can be all jealous they want. No, they're not. Yeah, they are. Braves are probably going to win the World Series this year. I mean, I can't see anyone else in the NL, maybe besides Dodgers. And, I mean, look at the Phillies. They're also a good team.
Yeah.
And that's with guys like Trey Turner not fully 100% and other players. So it was a disaster of a series. And like I said, Buck Showalter, definitely. I mean, that leadership role, proud. Oh, they did their best. It's nice plays. No, you lost. I don't care if someone hit a home run. I don't care if someone made a nice play. If you lose, you lose. That should be your top thing on your head, is that you lost and how you could improve, not excuses. So, a disaster of a series, and painful.
Yep, I agree. And the dugout, it's not even about the Ortegas or the Arus or the Stewarts. I wanted to see the guys that are probably going to be here next year show something, do something. Be on the top step rooting for you guys. Don't mope in the dugout. It just looks bad. I mean, they showed the replay the other day. I think was it the doubleheader when Pete Alonso was at the helmet case and basically destroying his helmet. Like, yeah, I see the frustration, but I mean, is that a personal frustration for your own mistakes or for not doing well, or is it a team frustration?
And that's
yeah.
No, sorry. I was gonna say, and that is one thing I did want to, I guess, end my thing on is these players don't show any emotion. I mean, listen, say what you want about McNeil, how he gets angry. At least he gets angry. At least he shows emotion. Alonso, he slammed his helmet.
Yeah.
I don't see any other guys showing emotion. They strike out. They walk back to the dugout. Oh, show emotion.
I agree with that, but the thing that I like, is it more individual being upset because of their individual performance, or is it being upset because it's their team is losing and they're not helping the situation? Is it a combination of both? Because we even heard stories that everybody's playing for themselves as well. We heard that rumor as well. So what is it? If it's, it seems like that rumor is probably more true than probably fake, to be honest with you. Only because, like, I see the emotion, but it's like, it seems like, if Pete Alonso's 0 for 30, but the team's winning, is he going to be upset? Is he going to, bang his helmet and crack his helmet or break his bat because he's 0 for 30, but the team's winning? Like, I don't know. because it seems like it's a lot individual performances being negative or positive than it is, oh, I'm doing well and I'm helping the team, or the team's doing well and everybody else is doing good, but I'm not. So I'm going to throw it to Nelson. What do you think, Nelson, especially about the Braves series and the Mets in general?
All right, I've been dying to jump in because I got an entirely different take than all of you. I disagree. Well, I can't say I disagree. I just view it differently. I don't. I mean, what did we expect? Listen, I'm not gonna lie. I didn't watch this series. What the hell for? What's the point? We're 23 games out. Like we're not battling for anything. The talent discrepancy on these two teams is ridiculous. Like, did we really expect us to? Like, I'm shocked we won one game. Good on Kodai Senga. Like, dude continues to show up. I don't understand how we're throwing around words like this. Disaster is more like what happened at the end of last season, where they beat us and they took the division from us. This wasn't a disaster. This was to be expected. Like, we're throwing a roster out there of guys, and that's where I don't really agree, Rob. Like, I don't think any of these guys are. If these guys are on the Mets next year, these stewards of the world and Arauz and Ortega, like, then we got a big problem because we got way more depth than those guys. These guys we're trying to lose here. Let's face it. They're tanking. They don't want to win games. I mean, yeah, you want to see some pride, but at the same time, like, the talent level of the Braves is so much above and beyond in this team right now. Like, if we would have lost every game 20-3, I wouldn't have been shocked. Like, it just doesn't faze me. That doesn't bother me. I guess maybe it should a little bit, but I mean, we're sending guys out there that are never going to play for this team again. Do I care if Alonso's breaking his bat or whatever? Good for you, I guess. Okay. I mean, it's just at this point, it doesn't matter. What matters is I need you guys next year, the guys that are actually going to be here, to get your head out your asses. But this year, that series, I never expected anything out of this team. They all stink. It's just, the pitching, especially. Like, the pitching was never going to keep us in those games. We're throwing crap out on the mound. Like, these guys stink. Senga is a good pitcher, so he kept us in the game and we managed to win one. Good for them. Like, but I don't know. To me, it is what it is. I don't understand the point in getting all riled up about it. Last year, yeah, we lost to them, but last year we played them tough all season, and we took a series for them in Queens. What was it, August, where we put them? A lot of people thought we finally buried them, but obviously we didn't, because we fell apart in September. But it's not like we completely laid down to them last year. Last year, when we had an actual good team, we stepped up. Does it mean a little more to them? Maybe, because our fans talk too much shit. Let's be honest. Like, you get the Sal Licatas of the world that are claiming that the division's over in May. Like, they hear that crap. Let's face it. They do. Teams take stuff like that as motivation. You got Frank the Tank running his mouth all the time. You got our fans are loud. Their fans they don't really have fans. Let's be honest. Their fans, they have a few, but they're not a ton of diehard Braves fans out there. That's football country. That they care about college football, and that's mainly it. They play NFL a little bit, but to their players, I think at this point maybe it does mean more. But like I said, Hayden's got a point. They're probably going to win a World Series. At the very least, they're going to make it. The NL sucks, and they don't have much of a challenge. Maybe the Dodgers give them a fight, but I don't see anybody else doing it. It is what it is, man. That series didn't mean anything to me. I'm surprised so many people were upset as they were. Like, okay, what did we do? Fall another couple games out of a division that's been dead for 2 months? Like, I don't know. None of it matters.
Yeah, and you know it's funny. You talk about the Brave fans, and I've said this for a while. It's Bulldogs country out there. Go Dogs, right? That's what they are, and that's what they're not real Braves fans. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care if they were on TBS nationally for many years, especially in the '90s when I was growing up. I seen it, you know. But I mean, come on, like the Braves fans, seriously, they got to stop. Like, I mean, look, they can talk shit all they want, but we all know that they're not true fans, and some of them are. I know some of them are, but there's. I mean, did you see behind the Braves dugout at Citi Field those 4 games? I've been going to games for a long time from Shea Stadium to Citi Field when the Braves are in town. I never seen that many Braves fans. One around the ballpark and two behind their dugout like that. I mean, it was like 20 rows deep. Like, maybe that's Yankee fans disguising themselves as Braves fans since their team sucks. But I mean, I never seen that many Braves fans in Citi Field or Shea Stadium, even when the Braves were winning division after division every year in the '90s and early 2000s. It's something that is very odd, and that's when you're gonna call them out, because when the Braves at some point they're gonna fall off their pedestal at some point, just like every team does at some point, right? The Nationals basically controlled the NL East for how many years, right? And then the Mets finally took advantage of them one year, and that changed. And now the Braves are up atop again. So we'll see. But yeah, I don't think the Brave fans are anywhere near real fans. And I can assure you right now, they're more concerned about, what is it, the red and black game for the Bulldogs, and the season coming up soon for the Georgia Bulldogs, who are one of the best teams in the country. They're going to care about that more than the Braves. It's a new ballpark too. So
I will say that I hate to be stuck in 2022, but to Nelson's point, I mean, they did. Let's face it, they did roll over to the Braves in the last series last year. Like they literally rolled over, and that's something that and people could let that go, but I'm not gonna lie to you guys. That still haunts me to this day,
yeah,
because guess what? From that series to now, they have literally dominated the Mets in every single facet of the game.
Yep.
Dominated. Like it's not even a rivalry. Like if I was a fan of if the Braves, I'm not giving Braves fans credit, but I'm just saying like that I wouldn't even call that a rivalry at that point. Like we gave them a run for their money one year when we were up 10 games and we lost the division because 3 of our best pitchers, or at least 2 of them, couldn't win a single game in their ballpark to close out a division. Like I'm just tired of like accepting being embarrassed. Like I know that I'm a little bit of a younger Mets fan, but it is truly as a fan embarrassing. And I just can't stand it because like, I just have some sort of pride. Like I'm a fan that at least has pride, but it's just absolutely embarrassing. I know, like Nelson, you've been through like years where there's been embarrassment of years for the Mets that you've witnessed, but like, and I have witnessed some embarrassing years too. But like when we have a competitive roster like we did last season, I hate being stuck in 2022 because I hate talking about it, but it just irks me to no end that we found a way to lose that. And I was like, all right, we'll get him next year in 2023. And as a fan, I have to watch this late in the season. So I hear you. It's just it is just really embarrassing. And I just really do think that I don't know if that impacted the team anyway moving into 2023. I don't think it did. I don't think it should have. But I was full as a fan, just clearly as a fan, expecting such a big comeback. And like, all right, we'll get him in 2023 to now tanking and losing 21-3 here in August. It's BS, man. It's BS. But let's face it, it is football season. It's coming up for football season. I'm a Giants fan, so I'm already looking ahead to that. But yeah, man, I just had to say that because that series will live on with me until we win this division. So
the Braves have owned us forever. Like I think that's why younger Mets fans like have issues a little bit accepting it. But man, if you lived through the '90s as a Mets fan, like the Braves just they're our daddy, and they always have been, and we're always gonna be punching up, and eventually maybe we'll get them. But I don't know. I guess it doesn't faze me. I've had enough heartbreak with that team in my life, so I'm used to it. It'll happen. I hate them more than any other team, but I'm conditioned that when the Braves come around, they're gonna find a way to break my heart. So it is what it is.
Yeah,
I just want that narrative to change, man. It's embarrassing. That narrative needs to change, and I think Cohen can change it, but it's just ridiculous.
Jonathan Aruz really just homered.
Yeah, I just saw it too. I was just gonna say that he hit a shot too to right center.
Pirates.
And yeah, Nelson, you know what? And you're right, because all I have, again, I grew up in the '90s when the Braves were kicking our ass. All I have to tell you is Brian Jordan. Like, that's all I have to tell you, and you know exactly what I mean by that. And a lot of older Met fans know it too. Go Hayden.
Yeah, and Chris, I agree with you on that. I think when it comes to it is, I think just last year, and I get it, 2007, 2008, the Mets had the pretty much same thing where they fell apart in the last couple series. This would have been the perfect motivation for them to go after Atlanta. I know they're not going to make the playoffs, but at least deter the Braves from something, whether it's winning the division, whether it's taking a couple games from them. Just getting the satisfaction that you're able to, I guess, beat them, or yet alone win the season series against them, would have been more than enough, even if the Mets still make the playoffs. And, it sucks now. I mean, I get it. Like I said, I don't think anyone, I thought the Mets were going to get a 4-game. I thought the Mets were going to get swept in 4. I said it to y'all in the group chat. So, I mean, the fact that they take 1 game is a miracle. And, I get it. The Braves have predominantly always owned the Mets. You look at the 90s, they were juggernaut of a team. 3 big aces, the Jones, Chipper, but right now I think this is a Braves team that is deadly. I mean, this is a team that has everyone locked up till 2030, essentially. And obviously the Mets can't compete with that. You saw it last year where, they only lost to them in a season series by 1 game pretty much. So it just sucks now because, you look at Twitter and, Braves fan, Twitter's very, not crazy about Twitter, but Braves fans have the right to talk. I mean, what are New Yorkers, or yet alone, what are people going to say to Atlanta fans? 28-3? I mean, what else are you going to say to them in recent times? So, Braves fans,
a favor, just don't engage with Atlanta fans.
Yeah, you're not going to win, Hayden. And what's funny?
There's a lot of them at my school, so I kind of have to.
You can also know that they're not a lot of real Brave fans, because for a fan base that cares about the Met fans so much, knowing that they dominated us for about 25 years, that's how you know they're not real Brave fans, because we shouldn't even cross their mind at all. That's how dominating they've been in the NL East. Like, real Brave fans aren't going to talk about the Mets because they're irrelevant in our minds. I mean, yeah, the players want to beat up on the Mets because the Mets players talk like they won like 30 championships and a lot of division titles, and they haven't. They haven't won nothing. And that's what kills me, because it's like I don't care about, shit talking. I think that's great when it comes to sports like that, but it's like when I know it's coming from a fan base that shouldn't be talking shit to a fan base that's basically a team that you shouldn't be worried about at all, except for last year. It's like you're just all you're doing is trolling at this point, and you're not gaining anything from it at all. And it's funny because last year, when the Braves were slowly almost on the verge, because I think if the Mets would have took the series against them right before the deadline, they would have sold and probably not really went on that crazy run. In 2021, excuse me. In 2021, if the Mets would actually played better against them, who knows what the Braves would have done. But I don't know. I just feel like the Mets fans are they're taking it on the chin right now. I mean, let's be honest. And aren't we used to it? I mean, I know there's all the Met fans out there. We've been taking it on the chin for a while. I mean, I have. I mean, I've seen the Braves beat us enough. I'm sick of it. Every couple of years, it seems like the Braves dominate the division for 4 or 5 years, and then the Phillies come along and dominate for 4 or 5 years, and then the Nationals come along out of nowhere for 4 or 5 years and dominate the division. When have the Mets actually dominated the division for a 5-year stretch? Could we actually do that?
That's why I'm frustrated, and that's why it's like we've been losing for so long. But like, as a fan, I'm never gonna be conditioned to go out there and expect my team to lose.
Yep.
I get it. That's the thing against the Braves, and you guys have witnessed, and we've all witnessed it, right? 07, 08, like easy said in here, but like, come on, like, when is it going to be the Mets' turn? And that's why I'm so frustrated. Like, I really do. I shouldn't expect better out of the Mets, but I do, because it's like, when is it going to be our turn, man? Like, it's just like, I can't believe we've had this sort of. It's like the Knicks too. It's like, I don't know, man. it just seems like New York sports in general is just
I'll just
minus
tell
maybe
you.
my 2 championships I witnessed with the Giants. It's just like, come on, this is ridiculous year after year. But yeah, man.
I'll tell you, I'm glad I was born in 2002 because the Bills were in 4 straight Super Bowls in the early 90s. I think that would have been a disaster if I witnessed that.
Yeah, that's a lot worse than what the Mets are going through. At least the Mets lose during the season, loses four straight Super Bowls. I don't know, and one of them to my Cowboys. That's tough.
Yeah, it's personal.
Yeah, yeah. All right, guys. So we're gonna talk about the Senga Innings Limit since that popped up. About a day ago? About obviously, I mean, why even push him at this point? If he's feeling good, fine. But I think they're all gonna limit his innings. There's no point in stretching him out to the point where you don't really need him to. It's first year in Major League Baseball, and he's pitched extremely well once he figured out the grip of the ball, the feeling of the ball, the bigger ball, the mound, the United States in general, and pitching every fifth day. And I think that's something that, Senga has basically been our best pitcher. So I'm going to start with Nelson. Nelson, what about Senga? Do you think they should limit his innings? And what do you just think overall about Senga?
I'm very impressed with Senga, and like you said, everything he's dealt with in transitioning over, he's been our best pitcher by far. He against an amazing lineup last night. He had struggled a little bit early. It seems to be he seems to struggle early and then he settles in. Hopefully he can stop the struggling early part, but I mean, even still, 3 runs, 6 innings, a quality start against that lineup. That's solid. He got another win. I think he's at 9. I'm just massively impressed, and I have no problem. I shut him down now. Don't get him hurt, wasting for what this season. I mean, maybe not now. It's a little early, but you want to shut him down like early September. I have no problem with that. There's no sense in having him go out there wasting bullets for this team. It's just not necessary. I don't want to see him get some freak injury. That I almost had a heart attack when I saw him during that rain delay warming up and he slipped. I'm like, oh no, this is Edwin Diaz all over again. Like I was watching that WBC game. I still think that moment really was the moment that changed the course of the season before it even started. Just don't screw around with Senga. There's no point with it. If he needs to be capped, great. Let him get rest up, let him throw bullpens or whatever, and get ready for next season because we're going to need him next season. I fully believe this team's going to bounce back next season, and he's going to be a big part of that. So, yeah, don't mess with dude. Get him out of there. There's no sense. What about to win an extra couple games? What good is that going to do us? If anything, it hurts us because we need that top 6 spot. So, yeah, get him out of there.
Chris, what you got on Senga?
I agree with you. I mean, at the very least, I don't know if he needs an extra couple of days outside of the 5 days or the 6 days, whatever they're giving him right now, but give him a couple extra days if anything, but slowly start to phase him out. In September, there's no reason he should be pitching, to be honest with you. And I guess Edwin Diaz is another topic of discussion. We won't get into him here, but obviously I don't think he should be coming back in 2023 anyways either. So, yeah, I mean, it might not be the most popular thing, but yeah, these guys shouldn't be playing. One thing that you do have to account for though is how the major leaguers actually view it. I'm sure, and I know that we should not care about what this team and what these players have to think about how the Mets manage the rest of this season. But you've already witnessed guys get kind of squirrely after the trade deadline, and
Who's gonna say something? I dare Brandon Nimmo to open his mouth. I'll slap the shit out of him.
Well, it's a topic of discussion, man. Like, and if they, we can't control everyone's minds, though. Nelson, and it's just like we got another. Unless we ship him out of here somehow, which I don't think we're shipping 7 years of Brandon Nimmo out to anybody. But now for that money, at least what he got, because he got overpaid. But it's something to take into consideration about. We talked about the clubhouse rapport, like. If there really are clubhouse problems, these guys are already pissed off that we traded, and gave up on the season, 6 games out or whatever it was at that point. We all know and we all agree that, it probably was for the better of the organization, but we aren't playing for the New York Mets at the end of the day. Like, Cohen's going to have individual interviews more than he's already had to be like, hey, and make sure everything's good to go internally for the guys that are going to be coming back for 2024. And that's why I think that a lot of people don't realize, like, you would think that these players would be like on board enough, especially if they're here long term, to like be like, okay, they made a smart decision for the better of this team, and getting us more assets for future years of winning baseball. But I mean, I was surprised that Brandon Nemo said what he said. So who knows what he's thinking now? I don't know, man. It's not good. Losing like this is not good for these guys' pride, these professional players' pride aspect. But it's like they really have zero room to talk because they haven't been performing. But yeah, I just think that a lot of people don't think of it that way. And when you're a front office type person with these egos that you have, in professional sports in general, not only with the Mets, like you have to take, the time to reassure, I guess, these players, because I guess the money's not reassuring enough. But I don't know, man. It is what it is. Which is why, like I said, going back to the point, I don't want to say it again, but I'm going to say it, which is why I respect what Francisco Lindor said publicly, because he showed public approval behind his front office, and Nimmo didn't, and that's concerning. So I'll leave it at.
Yeah, and you know what's funny about that? You brought up a great point, Chris. Like, why do the players, when it comes to their contracts, talk about, well, it's a business. I'm not trying to give them a deal. I'm trying to, make money for the next guy, and the more I make, the more the next guy's going to make. They talk about the business sense there, but when it's not about them and it's about the organization doing what they need to do to better themselves, all of a sudden it's personal and not a business move. You see what I'm saying about that? It makes no sense. Like again, all of a sudden Nimmo is playing left field. All of a sudden Nimmo has an injury, and this is all after the deadline. All of a sudden Nimmo can't sleep, even though he was dog shit for about a month and a half when they were playing bad, along with the other players. Like, I don't want to hear that you lost sleep after the deadline. The Mets made a business decision because you couldn't perform along with your teammates. That's on you. Why are you looking at Cohen like it's his fault? Like he was the one putting on a glove and carrying a bat to the batter's box. I'm so sick of these players and their egos and their basically shit mentality. Grow a pair, please. Stop it. I'm so sick of it. If you can't deal with it mentally in a situation like this, when you guys had your owner having to speak in the middle of June because you were shit in the bed in June, and he warned you. And now you're shocked in the end of July, in August, about what they decided to do, because you guys had 2 opportunities to go on run before the All-Star break and a week before the deadline. You did no such thing to make them believe in you. I wouldn't even give a shit. I would have, if anybody would have walked into my office and I'm Steve Cohen, and I would just put them on the board and show their stats. This is your fault, each one of them. Because if you don't like it, I'll find a suitor for you. If you want to go somewhere else, you know what? How about this? You know what? I'd like a few guys on Pittsburgh. You want me to send you to Pittsburgh, where owner does not give a shit and he's one of the richest owners in baseball? How about that? How about giving them an ultimatum? They gave an ultimatum to Scherzer. He couldn't wait to approve his no-trade clause, right? Scherzer, we all talk about, Cohen did this and Epler did this. Scherzer and Verlander had the opportunity to say no to those trades. So if they really believed in their teammates, they would have said no and been on this team. So it's on them too. So let's not act like they didn't have a say in all this, because they could have said no, and they could have been on this team and says, no, we're going to fight through it because I want to be here. I love my teammates. I want to play until the end with my teammates. They could have done that, and they did not. That's on them. They pussied out and they ran away. That goes for the Diva in Verlander, and that goes for the Big Mount in Scherzer. Canna and Pham had great things to say. And those are guys that had no contracts after this year. So, I just don't understand it. Is it a business or is it a personal investment in yourself? Because clearly Nimmo sounded selfish. Alonso sounded selfish. Jeff McNeil sounded selfish. Nobody is to blame but the players on the field. And you want to even bring the coaches and managers into this 100%. You want to bring them too. They need to be accountable as well. But don't act like you guys were not warned by the guy who signed your paycheck. You know, that big paycheck you get every 2 weeks? Yeah, him. That's the biggest problem with this team. And if you can't mentally understand or come back to reality and realize that you actually sucked for the majority of the season, you sucked ever since the first 21 games of the year when you were 14-7. Ever since that moment, you have been dog shit. There is nobody to blame but yourself. If Scherzer and Verlander really wanted to stick it out, they could have said no to these trade proposals or to the teams they were going to get traded to. They both ran for the hills and ran with their contracts and did not care about this team. So whatever they said, it's on them. And whatever they did on the field, it's on them. Verlander missed the first month. It took him an extra month to get back to form. And it was basically didn't matter after that because of how bad the Mets played. And Scherzer has been dog shit ever since he came back from that oblique injury last year. So it's on the players. Scherzer and Verlander had every fucking opportunity to say no and saying, I'm going to stick it out with my teammates. They know there's problems in the clubhouse. They might be part of that clubhouse problem. They left and they ran for the hills. That is on them.
So what do you do? What do you do moving forward then, Rob, as it pertains to Brandon Nimmo, who's got, you know, that long-term deal for around $20 million a year? Like, what do you do if he's not happy with the Mets organization? What do you do moving forward in 2024? What do you say to him?
This is exactly what I said earlier. Put him in the room and says, listen, if you don't believe in this organization, an organization that believed in you and overpaid your ass for being the only center fielder on the market that was worth anything. And that's not much to say because there wasn't no center fielders on the market. The Mets overpaid for a guy who is a 260 hitter, who don't hit home runs, and is a guy that should be a better leadoff hitter and who's scared to steal bases. That's what you overpaid for. So we overpaid you because we believed in you. But now you say in front of the media to the public that you don't believe in us. If you don't believe in us, we will find a suitor for you. There'll be somebody out there that needs a center fielder, even if you got to pay 50% of their salary. Cohen has no problem doing that. I mean, if Cohen, look, I don't want a player that doesn't want to be here. If you don't believe in the organization or the way we're going, then I don't want you here. And that's the big reason why Alonso was on the trade block. You know, yes, he has great numbers, but Alonso was on that trade block because of what he said post David Robinson trade. They put him on the block because of the mentality. I'm sorry. And again, I think Cohen knows it. Cohen knows, and he said it. And I think he knows. If these guys don't want to be here, we will find you a suitor. But you know what? They don't have no trade clauses. If they send them somewhere where they're not happy, well, guess what? You put yourself in that own situation. That's what I'm going to say if I'm Cohen. If you don't want to be here, I can find arrangements to put you elsewhere. That's the way I see it.
What is it for? So, I mean, at that point, is that feasible to pay half of Nimmo's contract that he has remaining?
I don't think anybody thought it was feasible. I don't think anybody thought it was feasible that Cohen was going to pay the majority of Verlander's contract and a lot of Scherzer's contract. Nobody thought that.
Over 7 years, though?
I mean, who knows? I don't know what Cohen's thinking, but I tell you right now, Cohen does not want any player that does not want to be here because you see how fast he was able to get rid of Scherzer and Verlander? And as soon as they didn't want to be here, as soon as they gave him the okay to trade him to a certain team, they were gone. So he has no problem moving on for players that don't want to be here. And I'm on board with that. And that goes for Alonso and every other Joe Schmo that says they love New York and they love this team, they love this organization, they love the fans. Prove it. How about that? I'm not saying you're going to be great every single moment of every single day on the field because that's impossible. You fail more than you succeed in baseball. We all know that. But your actions, your comments to the media, and if they said that stuff to the media, what do you think they said in behind closed doors to Cohen? Probably much worse. And there's probably another reason why. We don't know what Pete Alonso said to Steve Cohen. You know, it didn't sound great what Pete Alonso said to the media. What if he said even worse to Steve Cohen? Maybe everybody's talking about, oh, Steve, you must extend Pete Alonso. What if Pete Alonso says, I'm not signing an extension? And then Cohen's going to get all the blame?
I agree. That's something that, and I think that's something that, and that the reason I asked that point was specifically to just like let the viewers understand that, exactly what you just said, because I feel like a lot of people don't understand that. And I feel like, someone said over here, respect and loyalty matters, especially in terms of creating a unit, the 3 words I said before: unity, cohesiveness, and whatever else I throw out there, which matters, right? To create that sort of winning mentality, that winning culture. If those guys, I'm the biggest Pete Alonso supporter there is. I think he should be back. But if he's the one that's talking his mouth, and those reports happen to be true, I'm not going to speculate anything. But I agree that matters at face value a lot more internally than people give credit for. Because at the end of the day, is it going to be hard to replicate the production out of Pete Alonso? Sure. Is it impossible? No. I'm not going to blame Pete Alonso because I don't know exactly what he said. But on the flip side, if there was something said, then let's think
There's
about
got
it
to
2,
be a
3
reason
times
why
now.
Pete Alonso was on the trade block at the deadline. And if it's not just about what he said from the media, it has to be something he said to Cohen behind closed doors when they had that meeting. I don't know, Nelson, Hayden, what do you think? I saw Nelson shaking his head.
Yeah, I agree with pretty much everything you said, and I've said it countless times. I'm not married to any of these guys. Like, I'm the biggest Lindor supporter in the world. If for some reason it makes more sense to trade Lindor because we get a package and a half for him, I'm trading Lindor. I'm not married. Like, it's just, I don't know. I don't get attached to players personally. I just don't. I just learned that a long time ago. Can't do it. Love to see Mets that are here throughout their careers. It rarely happens. But if Pete Alonso isn't happy, or if Pete Alonso has made comments to Cohen either personally or through his agent saying, I don't think I'm planning on re-signing, then yeah, you got to put him on the block, because what are you going to do? Lose him for nothing? That's a huge mistake. So if he is questioning whether he wants to be here for whatever the reason, then yeah, you got to keep your options open. And this is I do want them to keep Pete.
Yeah.
But I'm not you got to keep Pete at all cost guy. I'm just not. It's not. I just don't think that's realistic. If he doesn't want to be here, he doesn't want to be here. And like you said, if any of these guys don't want to be here, Cohen has proven he will get rid of you. So yeah, does it sound feasible to get rid of Nimmo at 7 years or whatever? How much money? No, probably not. But you never know, because Cohen is out of his mind. He'll do whatever it takes to make this club better. And if he thinks that's causing a rift in the clubhouse, I think he'll make it happen. So yeah, these guys need to watch their mouths. They really need to get over it and like support this team. Yeah, this season's over. Yeah, they suck. Yeah, they're probably not having any fun right now. I can't blame them. But let's face it, Buck stole the fun from this team way back in May when he was he got on them about celebrating it and saying fuck and this and that and the other. Like he ripped the joy out of these guys, and they didn't recover after that anyways. So it's just, it is what it is. It's a shitty situation. None of us want to be here. The season sucks. The team looks abysmal, but I believe in Cohen. I believe if whoever it is in charge is going to, in the offseason, is going to find a way to turn this around. So we'll see what happens. But like you said, if you don't want to be here, then there's the door, man. Just get out.
Yeah. And Hayden, before I get to you, I just want to say one thing. Why, if the you would think the Brave players who got basically underpaid the way they're all performing, they should be the ones complaining, not the overpaid Mets. Just FYI there. Yeah, Hayden, what are your thoughts about this?
So yeah, obviously
that's your guy.
categories. So yeah, obviously I'll break down that, and then with Kodai Senga, yeah, obviously not to get completely off topic, but
yeah,
Kodai Senga, great arm this year. Love what we've got out of him. Definitely a valuable rotation arm for next year. Offered a lot this year. I can only imagine what the Mets record would be without Kodai Senga. And you could really see the progress from Senga early on this season, where he really struggled with location, struggled with command and control of the strike zone. And you could see the walks have went down significantly. He's throwing the ghost forkball more in the strike zone, pairing that in with the fastball to really confuse hitters. And that's been his bread and butter. So I love what Senga's doing. Yeah, personally, I think when it comes to it right now, the Mets are obviously not going to the playoffs unless, I don't know, lightning strikes Citi Field for whatever reason. Yeah, there's no need to keep, killing Kodai Senga's arm. If you want him to go out there, throw 5 innings, go for it. But I'm not having him throw these shutouts, 9 innings, 112 pitches. I don't think there'd be any need for Senga to do that. Preserve his arm. Same goes with Marte. Don't even put him on the field, even if he wants to play. If there's anyone else hurt that I'm thinking of. But yeah, Senga, if you want to start him every 5th day, I mean, if you really want to go the every 6th day, I'd like to keep him on every 5 days just to keep him in that rhythm for next year. But keep the pitch count low, keep it 5 innings. There's no need for him to be throwing 7, 8, 9 innings for, a win. That's pretty much going to be useless, but definitely love what he has, and he could be very valuable next year. And, when it comes down to, I guess, kind of the drama that this team has right now, play better. I mean, I know it's a vague and boring response, but you should have played better. When you have guys like Max Scherzer who don't like the way the team's going, well, maybe you could have won a World Series last year if you didn't choke in the Padres game. Game 1 wild card, you choked. The Brave series, you choked. So maybe Max Scherzer, maybe you should have pitched too well in those games, and who knows, maybe the Mets could have went on a run in the playoffs. You never know. You never gave your offense a chance because you gave up like 7 runs in 2 innings, so kind of hard. When it comes to other guys, I guess the guys that are on the team now, and I think that's something that Cohen and Epler in this front office should sit down with those guys.
Yep.
I think this is a very mental team. We've discussed it. Rob and I have joked that this team needs like a clubhouse psychiatrist and therapist. When it comes to Nimmo, obviously he came out, he said those things, and then the next day he's like, "Yeah, I slept on it, and I spoke with Cohen, and now I'm in support." So I think a lot of these guys, I don't know if they just said things necessarily didn't mean them. I mean, I think everyone was kind of in shock. These players were all in shock at the deadline.
But
I'm
why?
not sure why. That's my point. Why?
They got warned in June. Like I said, there's no surprise at all.
Cohen gave him ample amount of opportunities.
Yeah.
Press conference in early June. He gave him an ample amount of. It's not like he didn't give him a chance. He did. He gave them dozens of chances, and they didn't execute.
Yep.
So, I don't know. Maybe some of these players said things. Maybe they said their truth. And maybe some of these players just kind of had the emotional, mental response and kind of just blurted out stuff and thought about it. And then were like, yeah, that was a stupid thing for me to say. But who knows? I'm not that player, so I couldn't tell you. But, yeah, I guess that's something that Cohen and Epler in this front office is going to have to work on in the offseason. Building trust, building that clubhouse character, and, saying, are you on the same page with us? You don't need expectations to be a successful ball club. Just ask the Orioles and raise that. Ask the Marlins that. Ask the Phillies that. So, like I said, getting into next year, that's a topic for another day. But, I don't really know. I mean, it'd be crazy for guys like whoever it is to kind of just give up on this team now after being with this team for 4 or 5 years and going through some pretty bad moments and pretty good moments. It'd be sad to see a player, whoever that is, give up on this team now. Do I think a lot of the players actually meant what they said? I think some of it may have been just kind of the mental, emotional response, and some of it may have been the truth. Like I said, we're not in the clubhouse. I'm not sitting in Steve Cohen's office, so I couldn't tell you. But right now, we'll see how the rest of the season goes. We'll go into the offseason. We'll see the moves they make, and, maybe that'll change some of the players' mindsets. But, yeah, I definitely think Max Scherzer is one guy who, obviously, Mets fans are going to go nuts at him in Citi Field when the Rangers come into town. But Scherzer's comments, yeah, and Scherzer's comments were just very like, dude, well, you choked. Literally, you choked yourself. You put your team out of it, essentially. And whether this team could have won a World Series last year, I mean, that would have been a magical run. But put him out of in 2 of the most important games of the season, pretty much. So yeah, I guess essentially they got to figure it out. Figure out if you're on the page, are you? Or if you're not, goodbye. And, I get it. Not all players are going to be fond. Trust me. I mean, ask the Oakland A's players. You think they're happy with their team? No. But, they suck it up. I mean, they don't have much talent, but, this Mets team has been through a lot. These players have seen it all. They've seen collapses. They've seen bad seasons, bad stretches. I don't see why guys would necessarily complain right now. They're not rebuilding. They're not selling everyone off. So, honestly, when these players are bitching and complaining, shut up. Like, and I hate to come across as that, but just shut up. Why, So, and you notice it's only the guys that are under contracts. Canna, phenomenal thing to say about this team. Pham, I don't really know. I don't know if he said anything crazy, but I don't think he had any complaints. So, these guys just need to shut their mouths and not give off the emotional response.
Yeah, maybe they just need that energy and bring it onto the field, maybe. But we're gonna put the two topics together: the new regime and the next manager. Get everybody's thoughts on that. But with the new regime coming in, David Stearns, if he is the guy that's going to be the president of baseball operations, he has no emotional connection to any of these players, and I think that's a big reason why Cohen probably wants him here. Because he has no emotion. Yeah, I know he grew up a Met fan. He grew up in the area, but he has no emotional connection. He didn't draft any of these guys. He didn't trade for any of these guys, sign on any of these guys. And I think Steve Cohen is going to say, listen, do what you need to do. Obviously, I'll have the final say, but I want to hear your thoughts because he has no emotional connection to Pete Alonso, Jeff McNeil, Francisco Lindor, Nimmo, all of them. So it's going to be very interesting to see with those guys. So I'm going to get everybody's we're going to go to the manager because when David Stern happens, we'll talk about that at some point. But Nelson, next manager, do you think Buck is still going to be here? And if he's not, who do you think will be the next manager of the New York Mets?
That's a tough question. I don't think they keep Buck, not after the way things have turned out. I guess maybe if Stearns comes in and decides, you know what, I want to see this these Epler and Buck give me a year to see what they got and let me judge it like in person. Maybe he stays, but I really don't see it. Epler, yeah, but appreciate you removing whoever removed Ryan because that was getting a bit ridiculous. By the way, just let me explain for people that may struggle with reading comprehension. Amish country Mets fan. That means I live in Amish country. I am not Amish, nor have I ever been Amish. If I were Amish, I promise you I wouldn't be on the internet. But anyway, moving on. Yeah, Buck, I don't see him staying. That's really small possibility, but I doubt it. As for who comes in, I have no idea. I haven't really looked into it. My personal preference would be Beltran, but I don't know that he even wants to manage. He might want to stick in the front office. I could see the whole Stearns connection with Craig Counsell. Maybe they bring him over. Whoever it is, I want a younger guy. I'm tired of these old managers. We need fresh blood. We need guys that can adapt to this new changing era with the rule changes. And there's going to be more rule changes. Don't be surprised if more things are coming. I mean, they're already talking about the automatic strike zone and this, and that, and the other. So things are going to keep changing. And I want guys in fresh young minds that can adjust to that. Because it's not old school baseball anymore, as much as that pains some fans, I know. But yeah, so if it's indeed Stearns running the ship, I could see Counsell for sure. Other than that, I haven't done too much digging as to who might be available. I guess Eric Chavez is a possibility. He is the bench coach. I would move away from anybody else that wants that's on that bench right now. I don't know. I just kind of would want to distance myself from this year's team as much as possible, as far as like the coaches and whatnot. So who knows? But yeah, whoever it is, I mean, I think Stearns will make the right decision. If it's not Stearns making the decisions, then that changes the game entirely. So we'll see what happens.
All right, Chris, what do you got about the next manager if Buck does get fired?
I mean, I agree they have to get younger. I don't see Buck Showalter here, especially just because of the topic above. Probably give Stearns a fresh start. I don't think I don't think Buck Showalter was the entire problem. He did irk me though. Just as like a fan, I just don't like the way that he's handled this season. And that's just me saying that this season. We all loved Buck like last season. This fan base was enamored with Buck, this and that. I don't think he's going to be here next season. I don't know who replaces him. If you're talking about managers that may not return, I'll take a different route because obviously Beltran and Chavez are both good internal, candidates. If you're talking about managers that won't be with their current teams and could potentially be moving around the league, the Mariners who've been underperforming, I think Scott Servais is going to probably be getting let go. So we'll see what happens with that name. I don't think he's done a terrible job. He's basically had the Mariners at 500 in his tenure, if I'm not mistaken. I saw some list that had Brandon Hyde, the Baltimore Orioles manager, as potentially not returning next season. I don't think that happens after this season. If they do, I mean, I would take Brandon Hyde as the manager of the 2023 Mets or 2024 Mets, I should say. Sorry. Don Mattingly probably is not there. I don't want Don Mattingly, but just I don't. It's such a hard topic. I want to get younger at manager, but really, I mean, outside of maybe like a Council or maybe even a Beltran, I would be happy with Eric Chavez too. But do we really want to put that up to chance? Leading a team like that, if they're not going for it in 2024, which I really don't think that's the case. I think they are going to be. I think you would need some sort of leadership, but if you're going to be bringing in a first-time manager, I mean, I get it that the analytical department is probably going to be driving the show anyways. We don't know as fans how much the analytical department has been driving this season, with Buck Showalter, but it's probably going to be a trend continuing. I think in the conversations that we've had, Rob, you think that's been the case as well, as it pertains to Buck Showalter this season. But yeah, I don't know. That's just a couple names to look out for outside of the internal candidates. Craig Counsell, listen, everybody likes to talk about, Craig Counsell hasn't won this, hasn't won that. I get it. But like, really, what are the other options at this point? What are the other options? So, and maybe the lack of options does keep Buck Showalter around in 2024. Who knows? I mean, we don't know what sort of relationships, David Stearns has around the league, not within the Brewers organization. We don't know that. I certainly don't know that. So, yeah, I think that's a good point by Nelson. But listen, man, if the Orioles miraculously let Brandon Hyde go, that's my first signing this offseason is go get Brandon Hyde. But yeah, I don't think that happens. I think that you do need to get younger though. The game of baseball is shifting. There's a handful of teams in this league that have older managers. This is not to be, like you said last podcast, last go around on Monday, not to be ageist or anything, but just the nature of the game in terms of like relating to these players as well. Let's face it, Buck Showalter hasn't related to these players, right? He hasn't related to these players, in my personal opinion, especially with his comments and what Pete Alonso's been doing in his post game thing, and how that might have been a turning point in terms of the rapport, internally. I won't say for sure that was. It'd be silly how little of a thing like that it would be, but it just seems just like the game and the way things have gone and internally just seems like it's past Buck Showalter's time. So I don't know. Who knows what Steve Cohen's saying? Steve Cohen didn't answer yes or no as it pertains to Buck Showalter next season. I think I saw a report from a Mets beat writer, I forgot who it was, saying that there's actually a better odd that Buck Showalter is the manager in 2024. I forgot. I got to go find that and toss it in the group chat after we get off here. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens. Get younger. That's all I want. Get younger minds in this organization. And players. Don't forget the players.
Yeah, exactly. Hayden, what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah. So obviously everyone knows about Buck Showalter, and everyone kind of has somewhat inadequate and mixed opinions on him. When it comes down to it, I think really the president of ops is going to be huge this offseason, and I think that is probably going to determine if Buck stays as manager. I would imagine the Mets will get a president of baseball operations this offseason. My thing with this is I think Cohen has a lot of respect for Buck Showalter, and that is why I don't think he would necessarily fire him. Cohen has praised him in the past. He's quote unquote said, I have a lot of respect for him. You know, you look at Buck and, you know, it's kind of 50-50 with him. I mean, you saw last year what this team did. You know, you could argue a lot of guys had career years and played to the back of their baseball cards. And, you know, Buck kind of took a step back and let everyone else do that. And then this year he kind of had that mentality of taking an extra step back and then, you know, letting everything kind of fall into place, and really the inadequate season that it's been. But, you know, last year, everyone loved Buck. I mean, there was that the game in Miami where it was some running play and Nimmo did something and he was safe. And they asked him, they're like, how'd you know about that? And he's like, oh, well, Buck had us do that in spring training. And I think that was the only time it happened with all 30 baseball organizations last year. But you know what? I agree. Buck is getting older, but also the character and the clubhouse presence is not there with him. And that's where I have an issue. You know, when we see Buck Showalter making excuses during, you know, press conferences. Oh, he tried hard. It's hard. No, shut up. It's not hard. These guys got here for a reason. They're making excuses. Just not firing up his players, I guess you could say. And that's where I do get on Buck for this season. And that's where I get on Buck as a manager as a whole. You know, listen, with the whole clubhouse, with the LFGM thing, I have no idea. I'm sure that's probably going to get leaked this offseason. Something if Buck went off on Alonso for using it. Who knows? But right now, I also think it comes to, you know, what managers are out there. And, you know, it's kind of always been a surprise candidate.
That's true, too.
It's kind of always been a surprise candidate that came out of nowhere. You look at it, the Marlins, Skip Schumacher. I mean, nobody expected him to look what the Marlins are doing. Look at the Phillies. Rob Thompson came up and they re-signed him and extended him this offseason. You know, and that's kind of the crazy thing is there could be a perfect manager candidate right in front of us, but we would say who? He's from where? He went to what school? You know, we wouldn't know anything about him, and he'd be this elite manager. You never know. It's really the guys that we're not thinking of. I agree. I think we need to go younger. I think just with baseball moving, analytics are taking into play, all of that stuff. I think it's good to move younger. I don't want to say necessarily older managers are against analytics. That's kind of been the case, but I think moving younger would be good. I would like experience though. I don't want to, you know, immediately bring in a guy like Beltran with pretty much no experience. I know he's doing something with the Mets organization, I believe, but I would like a little bit of coaching experience. I think would be good and very important and vital in my opinion. So I think when it comes down to it, I really couldn't tell you who the managerial candidates are. There's really not many that are thrown right directly in front of us. It's always the guys that are least expected. And I guess to rephrase, if we get a president of baseball operations, I think there's a decent chance that Buck goes. I think it's 50-50 right now. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes, but I wouldn't be surprised if he stays for this final year of his 3-year contract. I don't imagine they'd extend him. I'm not going to go with that far. But we'll see how it goes with Buck. We'll see how it goes with the president of baseball operations. If David Stearns comes in, if Craig Counsell goes with him, we'll see. Honestly, we will have to see. You know, Buck Showalter, it's been unfortunate. I don't really know what the future holds. I saw the meme where pretty much every year Buck Showalter left the franchise, they won a World Series. So maybe that is one good thing if you fire him this offseason. I know the Diamondbacks, the Yankees, so you never know. That could be a blessing in disguise right there. But we'll have to see how that goes. But yeah, definitely. You said I can get my outro.
Yep, go ahead.
So yeah, It's really all I got with that. But yeah, I do appreciate everyone for tuning in. Obviously, we're calling it a stream. I appreciate everyone for tuning in. Mets Talk with Hayden is the name. Appreciate everyone for tuning in as per always. Mets content. I know it's been kind of rough lately. Not really much to talk about. It's been kind of depressing and very dull. But I'm still going to try and pump out content as much as I can. Talk to y'all, talk to the viewers. I know there's not much to talk about with the Mets. Pretty much just an adequate play, but I'm going to try the best of my ability to still do the live streams and, of course, the Roundtable podcast as per always. But yeah, LFGM, let's go Mets. Like, comment, subscribe. Let's get to 1,000 subscribers. And, of course, subscribe to everyone else's channel. And, let's go Mets.
All right, Nelson.
Yeah, great show. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Like Hayden said, it's been tough making content. You got to kind of pull stuff out of your ass, really. But it is what it is. It'll be a struggle for another month and a half or whatever, but we'll be here. We'll be talking about whatever does become news. And yeah, appreciate you, Rob, as always, Hayden, Chris. Amish Country Mets fan here. If you haven't, please go like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Tune into mine and Chris's show tomorrow, the Interstate Mets Report at 5 o'clock tomorrow. We do that every Tuesday and Friday. It's 4 o'clock on Fridays. And you can always catch your replays as well. And yeah, appreciate everybody. Hope everybody has a good night, and let's go Mets.
All right, Chris.
Yeah, echoing what Nelson said about the Interstate, we'll talk about some 2024 free agents tomorrow in our show. So go ahead and subscribe. Catch that tomorrow at 5 p.m. Also on Fridays. Doing my own stuff as well. Obviously, I don't do just baseball content. There was actually some talk between Hayden, Nelson, and I to do some NFL content. So we will see if we can get that up and running. But I am a Giants fan. If you are like me, and looking forward to football season, I make Giants content. I have some podcast episodes on the Giants, also heavily involved with Knicks stuff as well. Check out my channel if you're interested in any other sports outside of the Mets. I can provide that. I do provide that. Hit that subscribe. I appreciate the guys. Go subscribe to them as well. They do some great stuff. Rob, always appreciate you hosting these. Always a good time. And like I said, let's go Mets. I'm a prideful fan, and I hope the players start taking some more pride, and hopefully we can finally overthrow the Braves starting in 2024. But until then, it's just going to have to wait. So, yeah, I appreciate it. See you all the next Monday. Hopefully we're on for that, and let's go Mets.
All right, guys. Obviously, as always, great stuff. And, of course, we're going to continue to throw out great content as much as we possibly can through the next month and a half of the season and, of course, the offseason as well. So, again, guys, subscribe to their channels. And make sure you like, comment, and continue to support these guys because they do some good work and they work hard as well. So with that said, everybody have a great night. The Mets are winning 7-2 if you care. Have a great night. As always, Met fans, let's go Mets. And we'll see you next time, guys. Have a great night.